hello, everyone. Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Amy Edwards, and so excited that you're here today. We are going to jump right in with our fantastic guest today, who I only met recently, but has become such an inspiration to me, especially as I dove into her story and who she is and what she's bringing to the world and the value that she's adding. So excited, and that I get to participate in an incredible event that she is heading up. So let's jump in today with Loren Lahav. Loren, thank you so much for being here. You're an international speaker, an author, transformative coach, the founder of the Own Your Worth movement, which will have its second event that I mentioned coming in March on International Women's Day to kick off, as a matter of fact, March 8th. You have over 30 years leading transformational sessions for groups and individuals. You are known for working the crowd, waking people up. I've seen you do it. It's so fabulous. You're an OG of the Tony Robbins Company since 1990 and have been a huge part of many of those groundbreaking programs, serving massive audiences. You're the author of 5 books. You have decks. Oh, I love your decks. I want the I Am deck. And you are involved in a number of campaigns and nonprofits in your heart-centered mission to serve others. You embody badass and beautiful, which I know is part of your messaging. So welcome. I'm so excited to continue to learn from you and share your voice and amplify your voice. So thank you, Loren, for taking time.
Me too, sister. I didn't even have to. It's so funny because when I met you, I didn't even see your face, but I felt your energy. I'm like, I love her.
Oh, I just got like a feeling.
Just your presence and just how excited, because we met your future husband.
That's right.
Before we had a chance to meet you. And I fell in love with you just as he was expressing his honoring you and just appreciation for you. And so it was, he did a nice little, forward before you actually showed up. And then I just was like, oh my God, I love her.
Thank you. He is my biggest hype man. I mean, like, he's like, and he does it for everybody. And you know what? We should all be like that, right? Like, really valuing people. And he sets a good example. So thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Congratulations, first of all.
Thank you.
Congratulate you. I'm so excited.
That's right. It is official now. Yeah. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And yeah, you know what? He was already singing your praises too. And I could tell like how, like we just talked about intention as we were tuning into this moment. And I could tell that you have that intention and you bring that to everything that you do. And it's such a part of who you are and your own worth and worthiness and tuning into those things. So I'm excited to talk to you about your journey toward that and what you've built, because you do embody that energy. I knew it when I met you as well. So,
well, it's interesting that you say that because it really has been a journey. I think is a big thing that we have to, be intentional about that. Like it has been a journey. I mean, I just turned 58 and I think about just how many steps that I didn't know I was going to need to go through to really own my worth. And as I know you have a daughter as well, but to see them to be able to step into owning themselves earlier, I wish I would have done that earlier. I wish I would have had the courage and the guidance. My mother and father are amazing people. And I don't know if they really had the confidence that I thought that they did. But now when I see my daughter and I see as she's growing and the people that she surrounds herself and my friends that she wants to be around, I'm like, oh my gosh, yes. Because I really believe that it's never too early to own your worth. I think that we do people an injustice by saying you need to wait until a certain time to do certain things in your life. And I think I haven't met your daughter yet, but I know that when you were talking about her, that she's really owning her worth. And that's really my passion is, I think we forget that, the lessons are in the pain that we have to go through. So, yeah.
I think I have 2 daughters and I think having them pushed me to that, like recognizing like, oh wait, if I want it for them, I got to do it myself. That's been an interesting part of my journey as well. And I mean, that didn't happen until I was in my 40s. So I don't want people to feel like they're totally behind or anything, because you're talking about steps. I don't know what steps have surprised you, like even in your 50s. What steps
Oh
have surprised you?
gosh. What steps have surprised me? It was something that happened with my daughter, and the same thing was going on with me. There was a person that I was around because of proximity, but I every time that they would call me, it kind of gave me a little bit of anxiety. Like they didn't light me up. I was working on a project with them, so I felt a little bit of that I had to speak with them, but I would notice when like I would get a text or I get a call, or when I talked to them, I would monitor how I was feeling. I didn't feel great. And
Hmm.
it affected everything else. So my daughter was friends with, they had a group of girls that they were in musical theater together about 8 years ago. And so there's this group of 5 girls, and this one girl goes to her school, and she's a bully. And my daughter was going through the same thing the same time that I was going through this with this other lady. And I said, Asher, maybe there's something you don't know. Maybe that, you need to be kind about this. And she said to me, I'm so proud of her. She said, no, mom, she does not make me feel good. Like I get anxiety. I do not feel good around her. And I will not, you know, put that ahead of my own mental health and my own happiness. And I was like, oh my gosh. Even though I've been in this world of personal development for 34, almost 35 years now, I still, just because you're in it doesn't mean you're not waking up to some of the lessons that you need. And I'm so grateful to my daughter because you know what? I spent less time with that other person. And now when I let go of that, it's amazing all the other wonderful people that have been showing up that really have the same vibe, right? They say your vibe attracts your tribe,
Hmm.
right? And
Yeah.
I remember that time I was spending a lot of time with this person. I was like, why are these things happening? Like they should be happening right now. And I really did realize that um, the energy that I was putting out there wasn't the right. That wasn't my tribe. Like now I've really got it. Like you just said it. You're like, man, you got a badass team of like women, like some pretty freaking amazing people. And I think it's because I was willing to let go and to really put my own mental health first. And but I learned it from my daughter. That's what surprised me. And that was just in the past year and a half.
She's so right too, because I think maybe it's because we're of a different generation that we can get trained. Like our mothers were probably like, make everyone feel comfortable, and this little set of societal rules that
Yep.
can diminish our own worth and our own mental health worthiness. When in actuality, owning our worth means and putting those boundaries in place, right? And
Yep.
like I don't think I was really taught that.
I definitely was not taught that. And, it's funny that you mentioned that whole thing because last year at the Own Your Worth experience, there was a wonderful woman that was there and she created Jiggy Puzzles. Have you ever heard of Jiggy
No.
Puzzles?
Uh-uh.
And when she went on Shark Tank, what happened was
Ah.
she had a career and she just wasn't happy. She's like, this is not my tribe. And during the mandatory pause, I call it, she realized that she loved to do puzzles, and she decided to create these puzzles with purpose. And it was artwork, wonderful artwork of women, and then you would frame the puzzles after you were done with it. So when I was doing a podcast with her, she talked about it, and I think that a puzzle is such a great metaphor for us to remember is that you start with the borders, you start
Yeah.
with boundaries,
Oh, yeah.
right? I mean, think about a puzzle. That's where you start, right? Or if you're learning a game, want to find out the rules of the game. Those are boundaries, right? And not boundaries don't have to be bad. Boundaries actually give you guidance and let you know if you're following that true north or if you're off course. So I think that the word boundaries has gotten a bad rap where really it's that guidance that's going to let you know, am I doing all right? So you could call it borders, you could call it boundaries, you could call it just like mine is a question that I say to myself. And that question is always, if I say yes to this, am I staying true to myself? Right. So I remember when you were talking about Fight for Her, and you were saying that that was one of the things that you're committed to making happen. And I didn't know you very well at all.
Mm-mm.
Right? I knew Justin for what, 2 days.
Right.
And but I remember I was like, okay, I got the event coming up. And then I was watching you, and I was watching you with Justin. I was watching how you were with Joss. And my question was like, okay, if I invite her, am I staying true to myself? Like literally, that's every time. So I think everybody needs to have a question that they ask themselves before they say yes or ask or make a big decision, right? And I'm like, oh hell yeah, right? Like, oh yes, like you remember, family. Like you left. I hope you don't mind me sharing some of the
I don't mind
things
at all. I'm an open book.
with you. Was you're like, you know what? I would love to show up this next day, but my daughter's got performance and I need to be there. I'm like, yes, like her values, your values align with my values. And I think that it's an important thing for all of us to look at. Like the lady that works with me, she has a beautiful young daughter who went through one of the most, she went through one of the rarest cancers ever. Her chance of survival, 0.000005, like something crazy, when her daughter was 2 years old. And now her daughter's 16 years old. And when she says she can't show up, I know why she can't show up.
Yeah.
Because it's family, right? It's nothing else. There is no other anything for her. So I think looking at your surroundings and making sure that your values align with the people that you're surrounding yourself with. I don't know what we were talking about.
Even if it's something we were talking about, that guiding principle in your boundaries, and like you seem to have this kind of North Star question, like, am I being true to myself if I do X? Right. If I invite someone into your event, or even if it's just, that person that you didn't feel right with. And so I like that simplifies it, because it can start to feel messy and complicated. And that simplifies it to like, oh, am I being true to myself? Now, I suppose that begs the question, do I really know myself? Do I really, being true to yourself means that you are in touch with that. Right. So there's that like deeper layer, I suppose.
Yeah. And I think that a lot of people, unfortunately, the challenge why people don't feel like they know themselves is because there's a lot of noise out there.
Yeah.
Noise.
A lot.
And I always ask people when they say, well, I decided to do this. And I always ask them, I say, is that really you saying it? Or is it somebody else's, is that somebody else's voice? Right. And I think it's digging deep. And, there's a great guy, Keith Cunningham, who lives there in Austin. And Keith Cunningham says, you can't track what you don't measure.
Yeah, true.
So meaning, how did I feel? Like I shared with you before, how did I feel after that conversation with that person? Did I feel lit up? Did I feel inspired? Did I feel good? Do I feel happy? Or did you feel heavy? It didn't feel right. Something was off, and then I go and I cut the cords and I'm like, and I sage the crap out of it, right? Because everything is energy, as we know. But I think that's how you you have to kind of unravel everything. It's kind of like peeling back the layers. And you have to sometimes slow down before you could speed up, right? So that means, okay, what are the things? I make a list of everything that I really love, right? I love the sand between my toes. I love a sunrise. I love a sunset. I love my dogs, like when they're close to me. I love, whatever that. I love when my kids call me and say they love me. Joss, who you met, he calls us every single day at 3:15 when he gets off work. My husband, we see if my husband's the first one to get the call, or if I'm the first one to get the call, and then we fight over it. And someone asked him, they go, why do you call your parents every day? And you know what he said? Because I can.
Oh,
I mean, how many people can't we call, right? Because they're not around anymore.
I can call my parents. Yeah.
Right.
That's so incredible. Yeah.
Right. So I say that because when a lot of people go, well, I don't know who I am. Well, it's because we haven't taken the time to really slow down, right? And for me, it's like, okay, how do I really want to be seen in the world? And then I do those things that make me want to be, that's how I want to be seen in the world. So yesterday, I don't know if I shared this with you, we, there's Title I. You all might be familiar with Title I. Title I are children that live below the poverty level. And then there's something that's known as Title I Hope. And those are children that live below the poverty level and are homeless, right? Or in transitional housing. Unfortunately, most schools across the United States, or a huge amount of the schools, are Title I schools. And kids go to school. Don't be impressed about, our attendance at our school is 98%. Unfortunately, most of the kids go to school because they're hungry, right?
Yeah.
So yet we decided to do these birthday parties for kids who've never had a birthday party ever. So every month we know how many kids. And so yesterday we had 120 kids at the school, and Asher was there with me. Asher's my daughter who's 16. And she said, Mom, I need to get my high school involved because we need to get these kids snacks after school because they don't have, UNLV used to bring them snacks every week and now they don't bring them snacks anymore. And these kids, Mom, they're hungry, they're hungry. And so I said, so afterwards, when we finished the birthday party, I said to Asher, I said, so how did you feel? She's like, oh, Mom, I want to, I'm gonna go out there and I'm gonna go tell all these other schools. And she was like lit up. So that's why I say to you, grab a journal, grab a pen, and write down when you're in those times. Like, did that make me feel lit up? Do I want to be known as the person that just does the right thing, takes 2 hours a month? 2 hours, that's all that it took. You know how many people had excuses of why they couldn't come help it for the birthday party?
Wow.
I went to Costco and I bought $100 worth of pizzas. Another friend brought, the gifts. Another person brought this and that. So how do you want to be seen in the world? Do you want to be the warning or do you want to be the example? So that's how you discover, who you are.
Absolutely. And that's like a whole thing about service too. And about think that we get it reversed. We think that we have to feel it first and then serve others or something, but really just, it's such a big part of getting in touch with that is just going and doing it. And then you realize you get the payoff more than you gave.
And I think you got to be willing. My big thing is you got to be willing to do it messy, right? Like I didn't.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I didn't have a plan. I'm like, okay, I'm adopting this school, right? And everybody's like, well, wait. I go, what? We need pizzas. We need cupcakes. We need juice boxes and waters, and we need gifts for the kids. Now, one person brings stickers that say it's my birthday. Another person brings a little, blow horns, and then now we have the music that we put on, and now so now it's evolving. But I think you just have to be willing, and you learned this when you went to the Tony event that you were just at. You just got to do it now. A dear friend of mine, he says, say yes, tell the world, figure it out, right? So that's what that's what we have to be willing to do, because time's going to go by. Mm-hmm. And then you're going to be like, dang, I meant to do that last week, last month, last year, 20 years ago. And then you don't do it. Yeah. So I say be willing to be messy.
How does that feed into worthiness?
That's a really great question. I it's so funny because I think that worthiness, first of all, the worthiness has to be from within, right? There's a beautiful example of, there's a mountain, right? There's a mountain and a part pulls away from the mountain. What do we call that part that pulls away? A landslide, a boulder, right? That's what we call it. But the question is it still part of the mountain? Is it? Yes, it's still part of the mountain. Yeah. But we want to give it a whole new name, a different, like, no, I'm not part of that. And I mean, I don't know what anybody's spiritual beliefs are. And so like for me, I believe in God. And so for me, worthiness means anytime I don't feel worthy, then I'm pulling away from source. Because the truth is, I'm still part of the mountain, right? There's a beautiful metaphor. It says guidance, God, you, and I dance. And so when I'm not feeling worthy of something, I'm like, would God ever question the worthiness of the beautiful nature, right? I'm still part of nature. I'm still part of all of those different things. And I just need to remember that I'm part of nature. That's my responsibility. Does the tree feel worthy to grow there? Does that mountain feel worthy to be there? And where I really am still part of that mountain. So that's for me, when there's a sense of not feeling worthy, it's pulling away from source, right? Like you, before this podcast, you said, let's get connected. Let's, take a moment that guides us to serve these people in a way that we can't ever imagine that we could serve them. That's us pulling back to source.
I was just reading about this exact thing. I read every morning, and I was reading a book I've been reading for a while. I'm listening to too, called "It's Not Your Money" by Tosha Silver. It's excellent. And She has a great deck too. But she was writing about there is no separation between me and source. And that's all in my mind, which is kind of what you're saying, right? It's my
Yep.
responsibility to get back into that alignment. And we forget
Yep.
that that's, it's easy to forget that that's where the worthiness lies too. It's right there. It's just,
So just this morning, I was on a phone call in the parking lot, and I pulled my car away, and I was like, "What is that sound?" I'm like, "What is going on?" And this lady goes, "There's a bucket that's stuck underneath your car, right?" And I was like, "Tar or something." I'm like, "What the heck? Like, what happened here?" And this homeless guy came up, and he goes, "Hang on a second, back your car up, and I'm going to help you get it done." And there was a part of me, and he didn't want anything, right? He's like, I just, he really literally didn't want anything. And but there was a part of me that was like, oh, I should do something for him. I should like give him something. And he was really just happy to help. And the reason why I say that was I believe he was a messenger for me to remind me of I don't have to horse trade all the time.
Right. That moves into like those transactional feelings, like my worthiness is contingent on how much I give. And
Correct.
that's part of receiving and all that. That's been a lot of like deep work for me to get to. And it's just an ongoing practice kind of, because
Yep.
I'll even forget because it's so ingrained. And that's what we want to teach our children. That's like, you are inherently worthy, period. you know?
Period.
Yeah.
End of story. You don't have to give an example of it. There is no reason why. It's just you are, because you're part of source. And I think that's why you see this hunger, this desire for people right now, is because we've been a little, it's been a little bit like people haven't had that foundation for themselves.
Mm-mm.
Right. And so they're like, where do I go? Where do I this? Like when we grew up, it was a church, a synagogue, that's where you would go, at least. And not, once again, it's not about religion, but it was a place at least you could go you knew that you were home. Like you knew that it was like, where you could land somewhere. And I think people have been looking like, where do I land? Like, where do I go? And we're very blessed because they're like Facebook groups or whatever groups and this online and Zoom opportunities. Like it's expanded. But I think people have been searching because they haven't had that foundation for a long time.
Yeah, I do too. And sometimes you just don't know where to turn, especially if maybe you didn't have the best experience raised in the church when you were a kid. Yep. Or whatever it is. And so you kind of don't know where to turn. And we do have more resources now. So maybe, and that's what you're providing. That's what you're creating with this event, I think, right? Is like
that is my community. I don't know who said this, so I apologize to my friend, whoever I just heard this from, and I can't edify them and thank them for this, but I loved it, how they described me. They said, you know what, Loren, we're all a bunch of pearls, we're all a bunch of pearl, and you are like the string that brings us all together.
Oh, wow. What a compliment.
Like, oh my God, I know. I was like, or another girl, one of my True Voice, I do it speaker training. And this girl goes, you kind of are the wind underneath the cape. And you're like, fly, little, and I'm like, oh my God, I love that. Because I am all about community, and that your win is my win, that my win is your win, that I get just as excited about, Fight for Her and about your show as you do about everything that we're doing here, because there is no lack, right? There is, if you really remember that there is no separation from us, and that you really remember that you are that tree, you'll be nicer to that tree, first of all. You'll be nice, right?
Are you ready to up-level your pleasure practice? I have in mind, and the main things that have helped me are the tools that I've found from Wands. Wands creates luxurious products that encourage us all to honor our body, celebrate our sexuality, and live in pleasure. with more pleasure all the time. One of my favorites, if you listen to this show, then you probably already know, is the cervix wand. Wands has trademarked their #1 best-selling glass pleasure wand. It's for vaginal and anal de-armoring, and it's designed for cervical and G-spot stimulation. And let me tell you, it's incredible. It's helped thousands of women become more connected to their bodies and their pleasure, and supports them to heal pelvic pain through self-yoni massage, and helps awaken more pleasure. Just recently, I've ordered the Venus wand, another trademarked wand from Wands, and it's designed to activate and awaken the G-spot and more. Also, don't miss one of their new offerings, which are free bleed blankets that can be used as waterproof intimacy blankets. They have a beautiful selection now available. But take a look around at wands.com, that's WAANDS, because they have a huge selection of incredible items like yoni eggs, crystal pleasure wands in amethyst, black obsidian, anything that your heart desires, and so much more. Check them out at wands.com, that's WAANDS.com, and use my link in the show notes to get 10% off, or simply enter my code Amy Edwards at checkout. Again, that's WAANDS, wands.com. Y'all, I have started using higher dose products, and I am such a fan. You know, I don't put anything on this podcast that I am not 100% completely behind. And I have a special discount code for you for all higher dose products. I'm so excited. If you don't know, Higher Dose is a wellness company. They have wellness tech products, they have tools, they have supplements, and they have body care. They have so many things that are hot right now too, that are really biohacking and up-leveling our lives at home, which is really cool. They have an infrared sauna blanket. They have an infrared PEMF mat that I'm so excited to be sharing about soon. One of my favorites though is the red light face mask. It stimulates collagen, it activates glowing skin, reduces fine lines, regenerates cells, and it's soft. It's not like one of the hard plastic ones, so you can kind of move it around on your body, which I've been doing, and I am seeing amazing results. I am absolutely addicted to it. I use it every single night, and I'm using it in conjunction with one of their other products, the Glow Serum. And I'm very picky about what I put on my skin, and I am loving the Glow Serum. It's specially formulated to plump and hydrate and stimulate radiant skin, which that's the goal. They have a ton of other products too, magnesium ingestibles, magnesium body care, which has a healing oil and a serotonin soap that you can use in your bath, which I've been using too. It boosts your mood, enhances your skin, and deepens your detox, gets you calmed down. Anyway, I'm a fan, so I'm so excited to offer you 15% off using my code MAGIC15. Go to the show notes. You can click through on the link right there, or if you go to Higher Dose, just enter the code MAGIC15 and you'll get 15% off. Higher Dose has been featured in Goop, Glamour, Elle, Vogue, Bazaar, Allure, basically you name it. And there's a reason why. So go check it out. It's at higherdose.com and enter my code MAGIC15 for 15% off.
Did you know that according to a study, 87% of women who have hair extensions lie about having them? And almost 2/3 of women have done some kind of hair extension at some point. So if you do the math, it's a lot. This show is all about letting go of judgments. So if you don't want to tell, I'm not going to judge you. And if you want to know the best secret for hair extensions anywhere around, it's right here in Austin, Texas at the Collective ATX. They have the most natural, lightweight, comfortable hair on the market, and they specialize in no damage to your natural hair like traditional hair extension methods, which I've tried them all. And I didn't even know that your hair is automatically damaged if the extensions are placed anywhere below your ears. Crazy, right? My hair is actually growing in and getting healthier now too. Plus, they keep all their extensions in-house, meaning that you don't have to wait at all. Not to mention color. I'm so picky, I did it myself for years because no one can get it right until now. They were named a top 200 salon by Salon Today in 2023. They've changed my hair journey. Let them change yours. The Collective ATX. Link is in the show notes. Tell them I sent you.
There's a wonderful woman, you'll meet her at the event. Her name's Tamberly, and she does something called nature therapy. And she was explaining to me how, and I thought it was so beautiful, how the trees communicate to each other. Like they literally communicate to each other.
I have heard and read, or maybe saw it in a documentary. I know very little about it, but I know that they do. Yeah.
And how, and we were talking about like the needles from a pine tree, how important they are, and how they serve with the oxygen. Like really, I don't know it all, but you'll meet her, like I said. But what if we decided to get that tuned in, right? Like, what if we decided to really get tuned in and get curious? Yesterday, I went to the school, as I shared with you, and the principal, she's awesome. You're obviously going to meet her as well.
Cool.
She doesn't know it, but we're going to honor her.
Oh my gosh.
I'm like, you're going to come and we're going to have a dress made for you. And she goes, Loren, I've never done that. You know, I wore it to my prom and to my high school. She goes, but other than that, I've never gotten dressed up. I go, well, you're going to get dressed up. And, because I want you to have a fabulous night. But I told all of her assistant principal and all the other ladies, I'm like, we're going to honor her. So here, this is, don't you tell her. Anyway, the reason why I bring it up is my mom would have been 16 years ago, maybe 17 years ago. My mom, God bless her, she's 88 years old now, but she was living here in Las Vegas. And one day she was at Whole Foods and there was a lady in the parking lot. And my mom, I was not with her, but my mom went up to her. She's kind of like Nathan Lane from the Birdcage. She's very,
I love it.
And so she went up to the lady and she goes, oh my gosh, you have the most beautiful body that I've ever seen in my life. And the lady collapsed into my mom's arms, like literally collapsed and started crying. And the lady goes, I can't tell you how much that means to me because this is the first time I've been out in almost 2 months because my son died. And she handed my mom this little card, and on the cover was these mountains and a note that said, be kind like Josh. And there was a red string that tied it together. And so my mom brought it home. She goes, oh, Loren, this is something I think that she'll like. I met this lady in the parking lot at Whole Foods. So I took it and I go, Mom, did you read this? Like, did you actually read it? She goes, no, I just thought it was something you would like. Well, what it was inside this little pamphlet was a gift card to Cold Stone. And it was for the valet guys in Las Vegas to give it to guests that were nice to them.
Wow. Oh.
And like I said, it was be kind like Josh. And it was in honor of her son who had passed away a couple of months before, and that he had drawn the mountains. So yesterday I go to the school and I'm like, and I walk in and I'm like, okay, it's like you say, God, show me the signs, and the signs are everywhere. Right. Have you ever like felt that way? Like, show me a sign, show me a sign. And, and then the signs are everywhere. They're like right in front of you. Remember? And so I'm like, show me a sign like that. That I need to do more of this type of thing. I think I said it like before I even walked in the school and Asher was with me, show me a sign that Asher and I need to like do more of this and get the schools more involved and blah, 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 blah. And as I walk in, everybody is wearing a Be Kind shirt. So the Be Kind campaign started because of this lady, Be Kind like Josh. Be Kind now is in all of the schools around the country. It's in many parts of Africa. And I'm like, okay, there's the sign. So I think that what I would say when you're asking, like, am I staying true to myself? Look for the signs because they are right there in front of you, If
we'll just open our eyes, because like I know there's those memes that are like, no, a signier sign, and it's like, no, you're really actually getting the signs.
Exactly.
And I know that a big part of your message too is about being your best version, and that's mine too. Mine is about like finding our best version and continuing to rise to it. And I don't believe that there's an end game to that. Like, oh, okay, I did it, And so I was curious. When you say that, what does finding your best version mean to you?
Well, I'll tell you, I really want to give Tony a shout out because look at him. He's the best example.
I'm such a fan, like long time
fan.
fan.
I guess I'm like when I really feel like I'm like it's kind of like because I met Tony as a friend. I didn't meet him as an employee. So I showed up at his house in November 1989. It was the beginning of the Basket Brigade. I had no idea where I was. My boyfriend bought me his book in college. and I went to the University of Georgia. I was going to go to Atlanta to go work for CNN. I did what any good college graduate would do, and I moved to Vail, Colorado to work on my doctorate of waitressing degree. But, he bought me his book in college in 1987. He goes, one day we're going to go to a Tony Robbins seminar. I'm like, you're a freak, right? I'm not doing that. I'm moving to Atlanta. And so anyway, I took Tony's book with me, never read the book, got offered a job in San Diego, moved to San Diego, and my friend invited me to go deliver food to the homeless in 1989. And there were about 25 people there. And it was literally the beginning of Tony Robbins' organization, like literally 25 people there.
Wow.
And I walked through Tony's house and I end up walking through the turret. I have no idea where I am. I see this guy in Nelson Mandela, this guy in the president. And then I see a giant shadow box and I'm like, oh my God, that's that book that Frank bought me. And and Tony was 29 at the time. He's like, hey, have you read my book? And I'm like, no, but I have it. And I'm like, oh my God, that was really stupid. Anyway, he invited me to stay for Thanksgiving. And that became the beginning of my journey. I sat beside this guy, this really cute guy he's like, what are you doing here? I'm like, I don't know. That big guy invited me to stay. He goes, this is Tony Robbins Company. Do you realize where you're at? I'm like, wow, you were crazy. Anyway, that guy, I ended up marrying. It's my kid's father. He was the 5th employee at Robbins. But the reason why I bring up that story, because you're talking about that whole keep
best
growing
version. Yeah.
and
Best you.
best version of yourself, is that Tony's goal, that next year was to feed 1,000 people, right? The next year, like the first year we fed 100 people. The next year it was 1,000 people. Then as he started to do more events and people started getting more involved and we have more, people that came to events, started sharing the message more, then it became 1 million people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then it became 1 billion people. Now Tony's whole thing is 100 billion meals. So we're here to make a difference in the world. You got to be an example of truly what's possible. And I think he's just such a beautiful example of there is no end game, right?
Mm-hmm.
There is no end game. You're either growing or you're dying, right?
Yeah, you know what? I mean, I've watched him since I got into him in the 90s and I don't know, I listened through cassettes or something like that. And it inspired me to start my first business and things like that. But going to his event just recently, 30 years later or however long it's been, I was so struck by him being who he says he is consistently.
Yep.
And that means growth and that means integrity. And I don't know, I was really
it's
impressed
interesting because he really believes that in this. I mean, I've modeled, I think one of the most important thing, you want to model success, right?
Yeah.
Because I've had an opportunity to be in proximity and so many times from him, I would model the things that I'm like, okay, well, that looks like a smart thing. So,
Mm-hmm.
open your eyes, you guys. There's some really wonderful things that you can model. And I remember once he was doing an event and I was working the production for the event, but I had to go to his suite and I'm like taking notes as the creative person. And Sage goes like, why are you smiling like that? I go, because I teach, the Life Mastery program for him in Fiji. I launched the program for him 22 years ago. And I've taught hundreds of events. So I've worked with thousands and thousands and thousands of people. Really, I mean, we're together for a week. I mean, you really get to know people. And it's like doing interventions with people and one-on-one coaching with them. I mean, it's everything. And you learn a lot about somebody when they're cleansing and, and they're releasing a lot emotionally and physically and the whole thing. But I remember saying, I go, because I can honestly stand in front of the room and say, you do what you say, you do this, you get on that rebound, you do your incantations, you do your singing stuff. It's no BS. And I don't know about you, but like my dog's back there. Yesterday, I had a bunch of boxes that I was sending my ladies there. I imagine that there's a camera following me. I really do. I imagine. And so, because I want to be the real deal. I want people to know that like, hey, I'm a everyday mama out there dealing with all of the challenges. My daughter needs me to run her something to school, for school. And then I got to run here and I got to do that and I got to do that. But I don't want to be teaching the lesson I need to learn most. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that I've learned that from being in that environment. It's helped me raise my standards in how I show up. Like I would when I was working full time with the company, I would be like, okay, I'm not showing up to another event until I've made some massive progress in some area of my life, right? So it would be like, I don't know, like I said, that I was going to write a book by whatever, that time next year. So I was like, I'm freaking not showing up until I get that dang book done, right? Or until I make sure that I'm committed to that marathon. I don't know, whatever that it is. And so what it does is it causes you to level up just into what you know that you can be. And I think that having an accountability buddy is probably one of the most, if there's anything that I would have people make sure they walk away with, is an accountability buddy. And someone, not just someone who's just going to be sweet. I like to say, you know, I kick people in the butt and I hug them at the same time. Right? But that, you know, like hopefully, like there was a part of me that I want to be like, I want to make sure she does this. I want to make sure she does fight for her now. Not, you know, it's going to be messy. It's going to do this, but I wanted to set that date for you because I could feel in your heart how important it is for you. I'm going to cry. How important it is for you and Justin. And, you know, I've never been to Uganda yet. You know, I've been to Malawi. And because I've experienced it and such good people that just don't have some of the resources that, you know, that we have, that we take for granted, you know, I'm like, she's got to do this now. Like, and if I can give that space to help get the message out there quicker, you know, I'm not Oprah yet. Right? Yet. But if I can start the ripple in the pond and getting it out in Vegas and doing all of those things and having all these women, you know, get excited about it and understand that there is no separation between all of us here in the United States and the women in Uganda. That's what we forget. You know, that's the part. So, you know, grab your arm and remember you're part of the mountain. You know, it's our responsibility to be interdependent and not just independent. So
Thank you.
It's my responsibility, you know.
It is.
As a new sister to you, I saw how Justin, I have so much respect for him. He knew nothing about me. He knew nothing about my son, nothing. And next thing I know, him and Joss are just like, you know, inseparable. And I think Joss went to go buy something and we did an exercise together. I'm like, so what do you know about us? He goes, nothing. I'm like, wow, amazing. And just, he's pure love. And, you know, that's what it's about. So
yeah, it really, I think Joss and I ended up sharing a smoothie bowl too.
Yeah, there you did.
Yes. And thank you for this opportunity. Your heart is just out for everyone. And that's part of being true to yourself. And thank you for this opportunity because it was a hug and a kick in the pants. It's precisely what it was. It was like, I see you, I see this value. I know what this means. We are all one. And also let's get going.
I was actually a little scared. I have to be honest. I was a little scared. I'm like, she doesn't know me. Like, who am I like to say, come on, we're doing, you know, let's go. And then I was like, you know what she needs, maybe that's what it was going to take. Maybe it wasn't somebody to, I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying that I think that sometimes I always say to myself, well, what if, like, what's the worst thing that could happen? What's the worst thing that could happen? More people are going to know about it. Yeah. You're going to get it out there. You might have taken one step that you wouldn't have taken, right? Like what if, like, what is the worst thing that can happen? What's the worst thing that can happen? You're going to interview some of those great women and we're going to hear about it, right?
Right.
People are, what is Fight for Her? That we're going to honor you and honor these women on on International Women's Day. Like, what is it? So, like, I think for people, when you're hesitating whether or not to take a step to move forward, that's going to make you an example, not a warning. When you're hesitating to take that step, ask yourself, really, what's the worst thing that can happen? You know, and there's a wonderful woman you'll meet at the event. Her name's Lucy Dowdy, and Lucy, got married to the love of her life, and her husband had all these companies, and they owned a football team in Europe, and she had 2 little boys. her husband died suddenly. He had a heart attack in their gym at their house. And
Wow.
all these people are like, let us take over the company. She goes, no, I'll run these companies. I'll be fine with my 2 little boys. So anyway, I had her on a call once, and this woman asked her a question, and Lucy's answer was, well, it could be worse. And the lady goes, how does that sound positive? And Lucy goes, because it could be worse. And I think that until we really open our eyes to understand that how blessed we are, so blessed, we're so, so blessed. And you are worthy when you remember that, and that there's no
100%.
separation.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. And so let's talk a little bit about the event. I know this is incredibly dear to your heart. It's the second year for it. What is it growing into, and like, what are you bringing to the world, essentially, in your own words?
Well, I think that the thing is, I think that you need to be patiently persistent whenever you do something. So I started doing these retreats and women's empowerment stuff in 2004 when, it was like, what is that? I'm like, why are you doing that? Blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, maybe am I on the right track? Am I on the right, and so I did these events called Badass and Beautiful. And I'd have like 40 to 60 women. I mean, it was a lot. And my friend says I do everything like it's a bar mitzvah, right? So I'm like, everything. Whoa, this is a big party. So, tons of gifts, tons of whatever.
Sounds great.
Yeah, it's great. We're doing it in August. We're gonna come in August. But I think I gave myself my own limits. Like I'm like, oh, that's good. 40 to 60 people. I like retreats. I did, that I kind of like, but I held myself back. So this mandatory pause was a beautiful opportunity. I rented this insane studio I put on an event with my own money. My husband would kill me if he knew how much I originally put myself on the line for. And, when the virtual experiences started happening, my friends built this $22 million studio here. It's gorgeous. You could eat off of the floors. It's magnificent. And that's where we're doing the event. And I rented it to do this one event, and we had 10,000 people virtually. We translated in 6 languages, and I did it for this one company, like I said. And then they did it again, and then they hired me and my team this last time to do it because they're like, oh wow, like why don't we just handle it? And I'm like, great, and I don't have to deal with the financial. And I'm like, well, hang on a second, I know what to do. Why wouldn't I just bring all of my great people together and put on an event with all of them? And we did it, and it was so good last year. Oh my God. It was like my girl, Danica, who works with me part-time, she started crying. She goes, Loren, you said that this was going to happen. I didn't know it was going to be like this. Right. And so it's really, that it's never too early to own your worth, like I said in the very beginning, and it's never too late to own your worth. The youngest person we're going to be having, she's 7 years old. She sings opera. She's already performed at Carnegie Hall.
Oh my gosh.
She's performed in Barcelona, and and I told you the little girl, she's winning all these jiu-jitsu awards, another little girl. So helping people understand there is no right path. There is no same things every person needs to do, right? That's the thing that drives me crazy. There is no one formula. It's kind of like, not as a parent upset, I hope I don't upset anybody here, but it's kind of like Common Core. There's not one way to answer a math problem. Sorry. There's lots of different ways to get there. So I want people to know that we're celebrating women. That first night you're going to be there. I'm so excited. Sharing a little bit about Fight for Her, the night of International Women's Day. So it starts on the 8th, and it's all day in the studio from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. on the 9th, and then we have a day on the 10th that's more interactive for those live people, but people can tune in from their home. We had people in Uganda last year who participated. We had people that spoke French. I had some people from Israel. I just talked to my friend in Israel, and she's like, oh my God, Loren. And I'm like, yes, let's do an Israel room, for all these people who have gone through some challenging times. We had a Holocaust survivor speak last year, and it was really powerful. Um,
Wow.
I mean, we have all wonderful people. It's not a sales event. It's all just added value. All it is what can we help you do to in your mindset, because it's all in your head, in your mindset, your money, your health, and your mission. And that is it. When you've got that aligned, you've got those bodies aligned, you are unshakable and unstoppable and together. And that I can, like I said at the very beginning, that your win is my win. This is all about just celebrating and collaborating together and being interdependent, not just independent. So
Hell yeah. That's a hell yeah. Absolutely. I could not be more honored to be a part of it, and everyone can go check it out. It'll be in the show notes too with my own link. You can buy tickets and show up in person if they're still available. And then it is in Las Vegas, but you can also tune in virtually. It's ownyourworthexperience.com. So, Loren, thank you so much. Is there anything we missed or anything you want to add before we sign
I
off?
just adore you. I would love
Same
to
here.
give away a virtual ticket. So maybe we
Ooh.
do some kind of contest.
Yeah.
Let's give 10 away. Let's
Okay.
give 10
Let's give
away.
10 away.
So you give some, maybe you put in there like why someone feels that I have so many women who write and say, I really would love to come to the event. I just can't afford it, or I can't do this and that. So we'd love to hear your story so that we can honor you. And then Amy will pick those 10 people, but you can do it however you want to do it. And we'll gift 10 ladies this. I think our oldest lady, she got her ticket again for this year. She's 94. She's a participant in the room. She came
Oh,
last year. She was on the front row, and her name's Hazel. So she's like, I'm coming and I'm bringing my girlfriends with me. So
I
anyway,
love it. Oh, thank you. So generous. I'm
yes,
so excited to do that. And thank you. I know you've got to
I
go,
gotta
and
go.
I
Yep.
love you. And
I
I'm
love you
so
too.
excited to participate in this. Thank you so much, Loren. Thank you so much, Loren, for being here. Thank you to you for being here. I'm so excited to participate in this event. It's women centered too. It's a she soiree on the night of International Women's Day, March 8th in Vegas. And then the weekend is all about owning your worth. And it's this women centric community. And, one of my pet peeves when I was growing up was when I would have a friend that was a girl and she would say, oh, I just connect more with guys. I'm always friends with guys. Like that got under my skin and I've wondered why. And it felt demeaning in some way. I just never liked it. And I remember my longtime best friend, Elizabeth, she tried to say that once in high school and I just called her out straight away. And I was like, really? Because you're sitting here talking with me and you're good friends with me. And there's a lot of other girls that I know you're friends with. So I don't know that that's necessarily true. She does have 3 brothers and 2 sisters. So I will give her that. But I called her out on the spot and she stopped saying that. It might have been in college when she said it. I don't remember, but it was along the way. And it kind of just offended me. And I realized that I value women community so much. Maybe it's because I only have one sister. I don't know. And I value that so much. So I'm so excited to participate in this in so many ways and to start Fight for Her that supports women that experience an even deeper level of poverty than the men in the Batwa Pygmy community. So anyway, I'm so excited to see how this develops and the people who are pitching in to help me with this. Thank you, Sarah, Zoe. You're badasses. And I'm so excited to give away these tickets too, because there's so much value packed into this experience. So yay, let's do it. I don't really know how we're doing it, but we're going to give away tickets. Maybe just start replying to this, start tuning in, and it'll be out soon. All the news on that and how we're giving it away. So thank you so much for being here. I want to give a shout also to another podcast right now, to Sonia Callan, who founded Everbloom, which has been an advertiser on this show. She has started a new podcast called Sisters in Sobriety, and it's all about that sober journey that women share. They're not like quit alcohol. They're more about understanding why we drink and really getting in touch with that. So I did do a podcast with her. I'll put it in the show notes, but she's got a new one out, Sisters in Sobriety. So check that out. She's talking about the raw, unfiltered experiences that shape us and all the support that we offer each other, which is totally aligned with what Loren is putting out. I'm so excited about Own Your Worth. Again, it's International Women's Day, March 8th, and I would love for you to be a part of Fight for Her. We're getting our website up, and it might already be up, the webpage on Fight for the Forgotten, but I'll be adding that to my link in bio at amyedwards.info and all that kind of stuff. So you can follow along, you can be a part of it, and know that we are all connected. I love what Loren said about that, and I couldn't agree more. Okay, so let's wrap this up. Follow my Instagram at Real Amy Edwards for more on how I'm going to give away those tickets. I love you when this comes out, so which is very soon. So I love you so much. Thank you for being here and showing up for yourself in this way. You are absolutely, I almost put fucking in there. I might as well. Absolutely so worthy. It's inherent. No transaction. You don't have to do anything for it. Just you're in that mountain. You are that mountain forever and ever. Even if you fell away, you still are. I love you so much. Thank you for being here. Till next time.
This has been the Amy Edwards Show from Overcome Studios. Remember to rate, review, and subscribe. And thank you so much for being here. Sign up for our newsletter at amyedwards.com.